so we didn't say. Can you hear me now? Okay. So you could have heard me without the microphone. I pretty much have a megaphone voice, as my team is very well aware of. Anyway, thank you all for attending this presentation. I'm very excited about this, and I think you'll find it very interesting and innovative. My name is Maura Lacanti. I am the global head of AML at BlockFi. And for those of you that are not familiar with BlockFi, BlockFi offers a host of financial products, things such as crypto lending, and the first ever crypto credit card, which we're very proud of. And standing next to me, I'm very proud to introduce Sarah Yaselovich from the AML team. She is the AML manager of investigations. And then we have Mitch Krieger, who is our data scientist. He's part of the data team. And they are going to walk through a couple of scenarios whereby we've collaborated with the data team and the AML team and some of the things that we've been able to get the benefits out of. So I'm going to quickly turn it to Sarah and Mitch. Thank you.
So at BlockFi, one of our core values is transparency builds trust, and so a robust compliance and security program is critical to our business. We initially onboarded Chainalysis as a blockchain forensics tool to aid our transaction monitoring program. This program, along with the help of Chainalysis, ensures that we are as compliant as possible in the rapidly changing crypto compliance space. This also supports our efforts to build trust with our clients and ensure security of their funds. We are specifically utilizing the KYT and Reactor tools to review and analyze risky transactions, and we quickly realized we could be using the Chainalysis data for so much more.
I'll MC. Okay. So KYT and Reactor are great tools, and they have great user interfaces. But what if we had the access to the actual raw data underneath? And that's what the Chainalysis business data product gives us. And that data, we've been able to use that to look at on-chain insights to better understand what's happening in the market and with our clients. So we use a variety of tools to do this. And we're taking the data from Chainalysis, we're storing it, we're structuring it, we're analyzing it, we're visualizing it, using a pretty standard data science track that most data scientists should be able to utilize, because these are industry standard tools, and they also are mostly open source. So we're going to walk through a few different case studies of how we've been able to leverage the data from Chainalysis to be able to not only do a typical AML compliance program, but we're also using it in different ways that we think you'll find exciting and hopefully not only lower risk, but also drive revenue and increase security. So just a quick overview of the four that we're going to talk about today is how we're using it in capacity planning for hiring, and we're thinking about how those alerts come in, how that data comes in, and how fast our analysts can go through it, and how will that impact what we might want to hire for in the future. We're using it in competitor analysis to better understand how our clients are interacting on-chain with our competitors and how we can maybe recapture some of those funds. We're using it in rapid response on-chain monitoring. And so that's kind of thinking about when there are incidents out in the world or in our business or in the market, how can we quickly respond to something that maybe isn't readily available in KYT or Reactor or a native UI tool provided by Chainalysis. And then we're also using it in prediction machine learning to kind of generate some insights through into the future.
So one of the ways we were utilizing the Chainalysis raw data was for capacity planning. And as BlockFi's client base quickly grew, there was an increase in demand on the AML and transaction monitoring front, and we needed to think critically about what was being asked of our team. We were able to project the growth in transactions and alerts, and based on the time it took to review an alert, we were able to calculate how many new analysts we need to hire in order to support new business and continue operating our AML program. For example, if BlockFi's client base grows by 35%, we know we need to increase our number of AML analysts by 72%. And it's important to think about planning in order to build a successful team, and Chainalysis has helped us do that.
So we're also thinking deeply about our competitors. And the service or attribution that Chainalysis provides is great for those insights into when you're looking at AML, compliance, are our clients transferring funds into or out of our platform, either directly or indirectly, to potential illicit actors, nefarious providers, things like that. But can we use that to also get insight into what's happening on chain with our competitors? And so what we're trying to think about is a few different ways in which we can use that. One is on a kind of an offensive strategy. Let's say we have a marketing tool and we're trying to leverage some promotion to drive new funds to our platform. We can use on-chain data to be able to see, like, where are those funds directly coming from? Are they coming from competitor A, competitor B? Was that the intention of our campaign, or is that some happy accident, or maybe it was something different entirely? In addition, we can also look kind of on the defensive side. So if we're choosing to change interest rates on our interest product because we were trying to increase the utilization of our lending product, we might want to see, like, if we increase interest rates, where are our funds going? So are we okay with where they're going? Do we want them to go there? How might we be able to recapture those funds? And the idea being that this data ultimately will help us drive revenue and think about how we're going to look towards the future and mitigate different decisions that we're approaching. So one thing we're really excited about is the addition of Playbook to the Chainalysis suite to be able to even go further, one step further than what KYT might traditionally give us. So that's looking at fund flows from competitor to competitor. So a little example here is we're trying to tell compelling data stories. So if you look at this chart, each vertical bar represents the total number of US dollar outflows from our platform to a competitor, and each color is a different competitor. And you can quickly see a very compelling data story emerge that the competitor in red in the past 4 months has greatly gained a share. And so then we look back at our internal systems and we decide, like, okay, if that's happening on chain, what does that mean about what we've done? What does that mean about what's happening in the market? And how do we want to respond to that?
Another cool way we're utilizing the Chainalysis raw data was for rapid response on-chain monitoring. When there are incidents in the world that can lead to avenues for money laundering or terrorist financing, it is important to be able to respond rapidly to those incidents so we can gain insights on how to help stop the bad actors. Whether that incident is a large exploit of funds, a security data breach, or an international conflict, the raw Chainalysis data was able to provide us with the flexibility to quickly understand the incident, something that isn't as easily accessible in the KYT and Reactor tools. So when Ukraine was first invaded, we were able to gather data from our internal database to gain insights into client geolocation, and along with the Chainalysis transaction alert data, we're able to ensure clients from recently sanctioned regions do not have any prior transactions that would indicate money laundering or terrorist financing. This data was super helpful as it provided insights for typical compliance rules, such as adjustments to client risk ratings.
We're also really excited about incorporating predictive analytics and machine learning into our daily operations. And the on-chain data provides additional regressors, additional features to bring into those models. The data on the blockchain is vast, and there's a lot of different data points to take advantage of. And what Chainalysis and Playbook can provide really gives us additional ways to help us make our models more accurate, but also drive to where the models actually do what we need them to do. So we can think about these models in two different ways. So one is, can we use the on-chain data as what we're trying to predict? So how well do our internal systems and the data that they produce predict something on-chain? And that can tell us a lot about our own business, that can tell us a lot about our own processes, and how we might want to change things. We can also use the on-chain data as additional feature sets of a model, meaning that maybe we're trying to predict something else that's not necessarily on-chain, but we can use that on-chain data to predict something either within our own systems or about a particular client. So an example that we kind of piloted last summer was, can we predict the demand on our systems for crypto withdrawals and deposits? And of those, how many might require additional monitoring? So using the Facebook profit algorithm, you can see on this graph here that those black dots are like the number of different deposits on any given day, and then the blue is what our model predicted. So it's exciting to kind of think about, like, okay, how might this inform our business strategy moving forward? So the key takeaways here are that we're using a standard data science tech stack, and we're able to take on this on-chain data from Chainalysis and really augment a lot of different of our systems using the vast blockchain data across multiple verticals. In finance, marketing, and strategy, we're thinking about how to drive revenue through competitor analysis. We're thinking about how to use predictive analytics to help us better understand our systems. And we're excited about the ways in which the new Chainalysis product playbook will help us continue to do that.
And on the compliance front, we can use this data not only to enhance our typical compliance requirements, such as client risk ratings, but to also build an amazing AML team.
What we hope we take away ultimately is that integrating on-chain data across all your processes is immensely helpful. And as the Chainalysis data continues to grow, as blockchain continues to grow, as your companies continue to grow, we know that we've found it particularly helpful to think about what are all the possible ways, and there's many that we haven't even thought about yet, that we can continue to use on-chain data to augment what we're already doing. And we're excited about to see how it continues to grow. Thank you. Come find us afterwards if you want to know more.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Kieran, and I'm the BSA officer for sFOX. So we're playing for prizes today. I've got a few giveaways, some t-shirts over here. So I'm going to have a Q&A of my own at the end, so pay attention. So who here has heard of sFOX? Raise your hand. Okay. What does sFOX do? Yeah, you raise your hand. What does sFOX do?
sFOX is an institutional trading platform and exchange.
Okay. And how do we do what we do? How do we do what we do?
We're connected to over 30 different liquidity partners, such as exchanges, market makers, and OTC desks.
Okay, I cheated. They're on my team. So they are correct. We're going to go over our agenda real quick. What makes sFOX unique? It's our nexus to global liquidity. We're going to go over case study 1, which includes some darknet gambling and some mixer exposure. And then we're going to get into case study 2, which touches on our advantages of Reactor as we've come to find them. And then again, my giveaway and some expansion of sFOX and where we plan on going in the future. So the short answer for how they mentioned what they mentioned was that sFOX is a crypto prime dealer, and we do aggregate liquidity from over 30 different funds across 80 different markets to provide liquidity pool that's 10 times deeper to our clients in order to trade size quickly at the best price point with reduced slippage from a single account. So we do that by providing access from a single point, from a single account. And we unify the liquidity, giving you the access to those multiple providers and those multiple markets from that single account. And that 10x liquidity is really pretty much our bread and butter when it comes to everything. The fact that you can access all of that from a single point and not have to go out to 3 or 4 different exchanges is really what makes the difference. So then how do we outperform the market? And there's 4 main points for how we outperform the market. One is we improve trade performance. We use that with vast liquidity, which unlocks price improvements and inverted spreads. Sorry. We also achieved the best price execution. We operate as a riskless principal, working to get you the best prices across the board. We also trade crypto derivatives at scale with crypto's first NDF towards platform. As a member of ISDA, sFOX works to ensure that security and efficiency of global crypto derivatives. And then we gain our edge with access to 15 different sophisticated algorithms that we use to help customize and scale your business and provide anonymous trading as well. So those are provided through an API in a backend system that we can either use out of the box or we can customize with you so that you can use them and include them into your business and really scale to the way that you need and want. So again, with respect to scaling, you see right here that we're unlocking capital efficiencies through our aggregation. So aggregation of liquidity and execution are really our two strong points. And then we'll get into our NDF. That's a pretty hot topic. So to highlight a unique product that sFOX offers, we have our NDF, our non-deliverable forward, for those who aren't familiar with it. We create an ecosystem where we can offer NDFs to give institutional clients a synthetic exposure to crypto assets through a standardized instrument. This gives traditional finance, such as investment banks, exposure to the underlying crypto asset that they normally wouldn't have the opportunity to interact with. So here you'll see from our CEO, George, where he says that it's a derivative instrument for sFOX, the first one, and we have a plan to roll out a whole bunch of additional ones going out to the end of this year. So now we'll get into our case studies. We'll take a look at 3 different scenarios that we dealt with at sFOX for case study 1. The first case study involved a fraudulent ACH that was sent to a wallet with direct exposure to Bypass. And for those not familiar, Bypass is one of the 6 largest darknet markets in the crypto sector, aside from Hydra, UnisCC, FeShop, FugsSwamp Market, and Dark Market. Of these 5, 3 were fraud shops, which is UnisCC, FeShop, and Bypass, and 2 were drug markets, FugsSwamp Market and Dark Market. In this account, it was flagged and closed. The second deals with an account that was escalated after a rule break in our KYT reactor, or our KYT, that highlighted potential mixing activity in crypto in and crypto out. So without any trading. Chainalysis provided additional insights to Reactor with respect to where crypto transactions were sent. Our analysts identified that the customer sent crypto to gambling websites such as Pai Wang Lao Poker Network. This prompted additional requests for documentation where the customer relinquished and refused to respond, so the account was closed there as well. So the third account was also escalated with respect to a KYT rule break for one-directional movement of funds. So our analysts utilized Reactor, which provided additional information showing that funds came from gambling websites, such as Pai Wang Lao Poker Network. This prompted additional requests for information. Again, did not provide any additional information, and the account was closed. These are really one-offs for us because we primarily deal with institutional clients. But it's important to note that with Chainalysis, we have our rules set up to capture this activity as well, that for alerts that trigger against capture activity against our customizable alerts, as well as behavioral alerts that we have in play. So case study 2, this really highlights the advantages of Reactor and that we can use it in more than just one way. We don't have to shut accounts down all the time. We can actually keep accounts open. So in this case, it centers around how we utilize Reactor in that sense. So a case was escalated in 2020 prior to our partnership with Chainalysis. So the analysts had concerns over the source of wealth, and the account was flagged for high-value deposits that were quickly liquidated. The customer indicated the purpose of the account was investments, and had a source of wealth that was listed as self-employed house cleaner. The analysts obviously had concerns over this given the 5-time transaction to annual income amounts. So with that, we sent out a supplemental review of that in 2021, which allowed the client transactions to be reviewed via Reactor this time, which showed that the client had purchased 25 Bitcoin in 2014 when the cost was under $1,000 a coin. And now the client can liquidate funds as needed for personal expenses. So in this case, we got the opportunity to keep that account open as opposed to just closing and filing on it. So just in case you missed it, these are some recent events and some recent highlights for sFOX for the 2022 year. So they include our membership with ISDA in January 2022, where we became the 3rd native cryptocurrency company, signifying the company's commitment to advancing the transparency, safety, and efficiency of the global crypto derivatives market. We also executed the first non-deliverable forward and a cash-settled and usually short-term forward contract on behalf of one of our clients, so that we became the first native spot participant in a prime dealer, establishing an ecosystem where buyers and sellers can match the interest either on a fully disclosed basis or anonymously, both in spot and derivatives. And then we also got approval, I believe last month, for our Wyoming regulators for our trust charter under the Safe Trust Company, which allows custodial services for a wide range of digital assets, which we offer our clients. And now the fun part, my Q&A. So, what does sFOX do? Anyone? No one? No one wants a shirt? What about you? What does sFOX do? We what?
Liquidity.
Okay.
Liquidity.
There you go. And can you name one thing that sFOX, I guess, executed on this year for the first time?
Let's see. First, crypto India.
Yep.
Thank you.
And who else do we have? What? I guess, what's the purpose of the Wyoming Trust? Anybody? Say it again. Taxes. Winner. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Can you guys hear me? Can I also hand out sFOX stuff? I feel like that would help a lot. Oh, let's see. There we go. So, real quick, no, it's a heavy topic. Basically, the goal today is to tell everyone that you don't need to be a model developer, you don't need to have a lot of engineering resources to use data to build out an efficient and effective detection method. I decided today to talk about human trafficking, so I think that's the one that we can all kind of get behind. You need the strongest detection methods you can to prevent it. So off we go on that. So brief introduction. My name's Seth Sauer. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer at Digital Mint. We are a Bitcoin ATM company with 1,000 locations around the country. We also, on the side, do ransomware liquidity, so we provide crypto for companies that find themselves opening the wrong email and being forced to pay a threat actor. Important for this, we were one of the founding members of a anti-human trafficking intel initiative and compliance cooperative around crypto with the sole intention of providing information, leverageable data, leverageable resources for the crypto industry. We have a few members actually in the audience. Chainalysis is a member of some of these cooperatives as well. So we're here to talk about some of our findings. So about 2 years ago, we got informed by law enforcement that we have exposure to potential human trafficking and sexual exploitation at our machines. Not really the thing you want to hear when you're a compliance officer, but something you want to address as quickly as you can. First thing we said is, can you tell us the wallets, the customers, the locations, etc. involved? Immediately they said no, which meant we had to go and figure out the best way for us to do it. And the only other thing we had outside of wallets, locations, and names, the things you'd want to use, is phone numbers. So we called up a few web scraping services, a few anti-human trafficking services such as ATII, the Anti-Human Trafficking Intel Initiative, basically said, give us every phone number attached to an escort ad that you have in your disposal, and we'll run it against our machines and every transaction we've done. So we took 6 months of data, scanned it against, I think, 150,000 ads, came back with a nominal amount of exposure, but enough where we were kind of off to the races to build a detection method. So what we did was with that 6 months of data, found every phone number we could locate in those 6 months transactions that had known escort ad out attached. Next thing I did was I had to figure out what we're looking at. And the problem with these types of services is when it comes to human trafficking and sexual exploitation, you have kind of two sides of it. So you have people that have unfortunately been coerced into the situation. They've been promised either freedom or they ended up in the situation against their will. On the other side, where transactions look identical, you have people that are willfully participating in this activity, and you don't want to let law enforcement know the same kind of caliber of information. You don't want to bunch those two groups together because the investigation can go down the wrong path. So what we had to do is figure out very quickly, when we have 4D hits, which ones of these are willful and which ones of these are something we need to let law enforcement know about immediately. So I worked with my team, I worked with a few outside NGOs and a few law enforcement bodies to develop a list of red flags, such as tattoos or brandings or men behind the women transacting or multiple women using accounts. And with that, we had what we'll call a relatively high-level typology guide, but one that we could leverage, one that we could work through investigations on. Next thing we did was you had to see kind of outside of the scope of the transaction what was going on. So for Digital Mint, fortunately, we collect an ID for every transaction, whether it's $1, $1,000, so on and so forth, which meant we didn't just have to rely on the wallet, we didn't have to rely on the phone number and the ad. We could use social media, we could use web forums, Reddit, anything we can get our hands on to differentiate victims from people that weren't necessarily in any trouble, but just were participating in adult services in some capacity. So we built out these two different kind of buckets and ran with the one that was the most nefarious and the one that we had to address quickly. And this is where Chainalysis comes in. So what we did was we ran every single wallet these customers have ever used through Reactor. And we started labeling them, whether it was Escort Service 1 or Wilfer Participant 1 or most likely Human Trafficking Cluster 1, and just started labeling them and saying, all right, if we come across these, we need to know what's going on. We need to know if a random customer that doesn't have an ad associated with a phone number sends there, are they most likely a victim or are they most likely kind of involved on their own kind of fruition? And that's kind of where this whole thing came from. It's important though, before we move on to what we did with this data, we did report every single one of these instances, whether willful or not, to law enforcement as quickly as we could. We worked with field offices, et cetera. So the last thing we wanted to do was be incorrect. So we did tell them whether we thought it was human trafficking or whether we thought it was something illicit or if it was just a willful participant. But through SAR filings and direct contact, every single case in some capacity has been reported. So that is an important kind of aspect. Don't want anyone to think we're not reporting things. But yeah, so we flagged every wallet associated to any of these transactions with some criteria in Reactor. And this is where we started building out a really, really effective detection method. So ads and web scrapes are great, but they're not all encompassing. It's not like a web scrape today will have every piece of data from the last 5 years. It's not like one we got a month ago will have every data up until today. What is pretty instantaneous is things that occur on the blockchain. So what we did was we took everything in Reactor that we could find and just started exporting the clusters. So if it was 100,000 addresses, 50 addresses, 5,000, it didn't matter. we were going to export, we were going to put it in Excel, and we were going to search every single customer that's not only sent to the wallets we know, but also in the clusters and inside of kind of where we believe these escort services are hosting their payment processing or anything along those lines. With that, we also added some of the data to KYT custom clusters, which shameless plug for Chainalysis KYT, which made it super easy and efficient. But what we did was we just added the ones that were showing the most red flags, that we were like, that is, anyone that sends there, we're pretty sure is part of an organized crime unit, that they're being trafficked. And we've able to make custom clusters, and we created KYT transfer alerts that said, $0 or more, if someone sends money there, let us know. And that allows us to find additional victims and report them to law enforcement. What was really important is when you export 100,000 extra wallets and scan your customer population, you get more hits, which as a compliance officer, again, not the greatest thing you want to see in your customer population, but as someone that's trying to detect this and help the industry figure out how to detect it, really useful info. So we took that data and we were able to find an additional, I think, 400 individuals that have ever used our services. And when you go from 40 to 50 individuals to 400, 500 individuals, you're able to actually build out a really good detection method that allows you to look at the red flags, that allows you to build out actual AML models. And with that, we're able to detect a substantial amount of victims almost automatically. So we're able to build an AML scenario that functions just on clusters that we can run in Excel if we have to, minimum engineering bandwidth, but we think is doing quite a lot of good because we're able to report victims to law enforcement. What we also did is sent the information to actual law enforcement. So when we found the cluster, we didn't hold that to ourselves. We weren't like, oh, look how great we are. We shared it with law enforcement first and said, this is what happened in our four walls. We're happy with what we found. We're pretty confident in our detection method. But here's the clusters that you guys should be looking for as well. Scan those through other ATMs. Scan those through wherever you think this activity might occur, and hopefully it does some more good there. And then on top of it, it's an ongoing process. We're not just, I'm never content with, we built a scenario, we're doing so well. Instead, what we wanted to do was work with Chainalysis and build out either a behavioral scenario around these clusters or around these entities, or a transfer scenario, or something that allows us to even further automate this detection. Because Excel, super efficient, super useful, exporting clusters, amazing. Automated detection methods, so much better. So we're still working on it. And the last thing, like I said, I'm going to speed run through this because I want to open it for questions for everyone. But what we did is we shared this with every ATM that we could possibly provide it to, and we're still actively trying to do it. We tell anyone that we think this activity might be occurring that you don't need an engineering team, you don't need a model expert on staff. You need the ability to export something from Chainalysis, the ability to use a VLOOKUP in Excel, and the ability to go on Google and search some things. So we shared it with ATMs, and we're hoping that they can replicate it as well, not only throughout the US, but around the world, in hopes that if we can find 400 victims, maybe they can find 4,000 combined. And that would just make a dent on this, and we're hoping it really helps. And like I said, we've also shared it with Chainalysis and other blockchain forensics companies, as well as law enforcement, to let them know, hey, we're pretty sure this detection method's effective. The only thing that we really need is we need people to search outside of Digital Mint's four walls, because we can only go as far as our transaction database shows. So any help we can get putting a dent in this type of activity, we'll take. Let us know how we can help. Let us know what we can do. And those conversations have been ongoing and hopefully pretty effective. And the last thing is, like I said, we discussed with Chainalysis, but we are working on a way to either utilize the community feature or some of these unique features that Chainalysis has been able to provide us in the last couple of months and years to immediately share this information, not only with ATMs, but with exchanges and other users of Chainalysis. Because at the end of the day, we were made aware that the exposure was at ATMs, but it became pretty apparent that the exposure doesn't end at ATMs. It's at exchanges, it's at service providers. So if Chainalysis can reach their entire customer base with this type of information, again, at the end of the day, all we care about is making the biggest dent in this that we can. But yeah, so like I said, 10-minute speed run on how to build a scenario without actually using your engineering department, which I don't know if there's any engineers in here, but I'm guessing is welcomed.